Actually, this is a good time for me to go get a drink real quick. I'll be right back. We just let them know as they're coming in. I don't see TikTok loading. This is weird. Is TikTok loading?
I see it on
Oh, there it is.
YouTube.
All right, I'll be right back.
All right, so we're back. We restarted both places. He's going to get a drink, and then he said he'll be right back. So, we have a theory that it's probably a VPN. So.
A little cakewalk there.
Oh, I should pull out the cakewalk pictures for old time's sake. Memories.
A lot of compliments on the chair. Yeah, this chair wouldn't fit in my last space, so this chair has just been sitting forever. It is a nice chair. I got it off of. Do you have Nellis auction? Is that just a Arizona thing, or do you guys have that?
I have not heard of that personally. So
this chair. I got it off of. Do you guys have? Get an echo from you. Does anybody in the chat know what Nellis auction is? We don't know what happened, Nana. We have no idea. The same thing happens every day. I have no idea why it kicks it off. I've gotten rid of the VPN now. I got to remember. Jen, maybe remind me every day to get off the VPN.
Another thing I have to add to my list of things to do.
Yeah, but I'm doing pretty good. I remember most things now.
Kind of, yeah.
I sent you the outline before you asked today. Well, before I saw that you asked. I don't know if I had sent it before you actually asked.
I mean, because I typically don't ask him. So I mean, I thought maybe you had sent it right after I asked. So I
don't remember. I didn't see that message for like 30 minutes. So
I mean, that's not surprising. So
we didn't get rid of the egg people. Okay, so Nellis, if you live in a place with Nellis, I think it's basically just like Amazon returns that they don't want to, like, can't be returned. So you can go and you can bid on. It's like eBay, but it's for stuff that they get on Amazon, and you just bid and then you have to go pick it up. But you can get stuff for cheap. Like, I don't know how much this chair is. I think it's a really expensive chair, but I think I got it for like $80. It was just missing one of the wheels, so I just had to go on. I think I went on eBay to find the extra wheel. It's great. It's a great place. You can find all sorts. You can buy computers, TVs, furniture. Most of the like plates and silverware for my place are from Nellis. You have MPS in Utah. All right, let's get back to Scott Bessent. I'm just going to start this over. Just a reminder about Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary. He's going to spin this. He's going to admit one thing. He's going to actually admit that we are in a recession, and I do think we have to be honest about that. And I think politicians now can't really run from it. We've started a recession. Now it's how deep will the recession go? But we are there.
This week, the Fed voted to lower interest rates another quarter of a point to its lowest level in 3 years. However, the central bank's newest official, Stephen Myron, is warning that if the Fed doesn't continue to lower interest rates rapidly, the U.S. could face a recession. Do you agree that the U.S. is at risk of?
That's it. Like, this is one thing that I'm glad we watched The Big Short just barely, because this is one of those things that I think should be ringing alarm bells. They're saying that the Fed cut interest rates, and that if we don't cut interest rates, that a recession is coming. Let's explain what that means. That means that all of the people, specifically these massive corporations, it means that they need access to lower rates to borrow money. And if they can't borrow more money at a lower rate or refinance more money at a lower rate, then they're fucked. So this is the richest people among us and the biggest corporations saying, after years, after a decade of record straight profits, we don't have a rainy day fund. We don't do that because we know the government's probably going to bail us out. So now these corporations are saying we're over leveraged, we don't have any liquidity, and the only way for us to access some liquidity is if you lower the rates, and then we can access money more cheaply. That's what they're saying right now. So when they come on, I wish like one news journalist ever would fucking explain what this means. But what they're saying is all these people who have gotten filthy rich don't have to live like we do. They don't have to have savings. They don't need a slush fund to fall back on, because if they fail, Don't worry, the government will bail them out.
Facing a recession?
I believe that we are in a transition period here, as we are seeing the Trump administration has cut back on government spending, Jake. What has gone unnoticed during the shutdown is for the fiscal year that ends September 30th, the government spent less than it did the year before, and because the GDP grew, the GDP, which had been 6.4, the deficit to GDP, which had been 6.4, 6.5% deficit, the highest when we weren't at war, weren't in a recession ever, we were able to bring it down to 5.9%. So we are bringing down government spending, and I would think.
How does that help? The problem with what he's talking about is like this math works. And I wish Jake Tapper knew enough to push back on this, or I wish that they would just be honest. Here's what they're saying. They cut government spending. And so your deficit to GDP got a little bit better. But what else did they do? Massive handouts to these billionaires who are now saying you have to give us access to cheaper money for this to work. So all these cuts to cancer research, cuts that they're asking for Medicare and Medicaid, cuts to education, cuts to the FAA, cuts for renewable energy, cuts to USAID, all of those cuts still couldn't fix our problem. Because our problem isn't spending on these types of programs. Our problem is wealth inequality. Our problem is a runaway wealth inequality. So none of this was ever going to address it. And that's what I think is crazy about Republican politicians. I don't know if any of them understand economics at all. Because all these rich donors came to them and they're like, hey, we need some money. Give us that money and we'll turn things around. People will make more. It'll drive prices down. Nobody's making more. Prices didn't get driven down. They got a massive bailout in the form of tax credits and a lot of government contracts handed to them by Trump. And now they're saying, thanks for all that money, but also we still can't function. So we're going to need access to cheaper money or else we're fucked. So what do we cut all that money for? Republicans will do this all the time. Like, oh, well, what we should have done is cut more. We should have cut more. Well, you can't cut more because then the country collapses. You cut literally as much as you can to try and keep the country operating on a shoestring budget, and it's not enough. So maybe generate more revenue. Maybe you need to tax some people. They can't say that. So instead, the Fed is doing a lot of fuck shit right now. The Fed is, one, they're probably going to drop rates. But two, they are lending a bunch of money. They're giving access to a bunch more money. They're bailing out and artificially propping up the economy in the same way that they did in the 6 months leading up to the 2008 collapse. And this is the Fed playing with their friends and saying, we're going to scratch your back here. Don't worry. We're going to give you some liquidity. And they need liquidity to short their own bad investments. So a lot of these people are heavily invested in markets and stocks that are going to crash. And the only way to protect yourself from that crash is to pay for a short position. But if you have no liquidity to buy short positions, then you're fucked because you can't buy a short position on credit. So if you can refinance some loans, or if you can get access to some capital, you can take that capital and you can put it in a short position. So when your stock collapses, you actually make money and you try and come out like net even or net positive, usually net even. Remember in The Big Short when we watched, and Christian Bale's character, Michael Burry, gets a phone call. He's been calling the banks every day. He's like, can you explain to me how I have an insurance contract or I have insurance on these contracts and the contracts are failing, and yet you're telling me that the value of these contracts has remained steady despite the fact that they're failing? And they're like, oh, I don't know. These markets aren't tied together. And he's like, how are they not tied together? The insurance is on this. This is failing. That's what insurance is. That's like saying like your car insurance and your car are not tied together. Like getting in a wreck and your auto insurance aren't tied together. Well, of course they are. And then when they finally call him and say, hey, we've got price on your swaps, and they say, we're able to price your swaps, he goes, I think what you meant to tell me is you've created a net neutral position for yourself, and now I'm free to sell my swaps. That's what he's talking about. These banks went in and they shorted their own banks. They started buying up all of these swaps. so that they had a short position. So when all their shit crashed, they also made money to protect themselves. So that's what all of these corporations are doing, specifically like in the tech sector. We're not talking about Ford and GM and like some of these blue chip, well-established places. We're talking about places like NVIDIA. I think NVIDIA makes up like 13% of our GDP, and they're bleeding money. They're running out of money. So they're going to need money from the government, which of course Trump is going to give them. They need a bailout from the government, but they also need to be able to refinance some of their debt with better terms, and they need to access some liquidity. So that's why Trump went to China. And that's why Trump kowtowed to China, because really the only chance of NVIDIA and some of these major corporations surviving is they need an infusement of cash in orders. So that's why we're seeing what we're seeing now, and that's why now after this meeting, after they're all now starting to prepare their short positions, now Scott Besson is coming out after 3 months of us all saying, like, this is a recession. We're in a recession. And he's like, no. The economic indicators haven't changed. They've gotten worse, but like we already knew we were in a recession. Everybody has known we were in a recession for months. There's hardly an economist you can find online that's like, no, we're like, of course we're in a recession. But Scott Besson and this administration have been saying, no, we're not in a recession. Why? Because they had to get a position for all of their buddies where this wouldn't entirely collapse them. That's why he's saying this now.
That the Fed would want to assist with that, because if we go back and look, MIT just published a study that said 42% of the great inflation of 2022 came from excess government spending. So if we are contracting spending, then I would think inflation would be dropping. If inflation is dropping, then the Fed should be cutting rates.
But do you think that the U.S. is at risk of a recession?
But what you could have done at that same time is increase taxes. They just never tell you the whole story. It's incredibly frustrating. How do you get out of debt? Spend less, save more. Take that excess savings and pay off your debt. But the Republicans are just like, oh, we should just spend less. That's it. I'm not going to save more. I'm just going to spend less. And they're not even really saving less. The reason they cut government spending is because government goes to work. Government spending is something that most of these corporations don't give a fuck about. It doesn't affect them. It affects us. It affects like everyday people. But government spending generally doesn't affect like the richest among us. Increases in taxes always fuck up this country. When, Mike? When? Give me a year, Mike, when increasing taxes fucked up the country. 60% of our current debt came from two tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts and the Bush tax cuts. We would have 60% less debt. That's just a thing that you've said. Yeah, they cut spending, but they cut spending and increased spending elsewhere, Mike. But you're missing what I'm saying. If you cut spending and you're in debt, you also should increase revenues, right, Mike? Like that's what you would do. You might pick up a second job. For example, Mike, if you were in debt, let's say like suddenly your bills were unattainable. You might go to a cheaper internet. You might cut out your TV bill. You'll cut out fast food. You might buy a cheaper car. You'll start shopping for different insurance rates that are cheaper. You might cut out trips. There's a lot of things you'll cut out. But the other thing you might do, because you're paying interest on this debt, is you might go do Instacart, or you might go do Uber or Lyft, and you'll bring in more revenue. Because if you bring in more revenue, you also have the ability to pay down that debt quicker. But Republicans never bring in more revenue. They never accelerate the rate that we're bringing in revenue. You'll look at a chart and you'll say, look, if you look at the Trump tax cuts, you'll say, oh, well, we cut taxes and revenues increased. Therefore, cutting taxes increases revenue. Well, that's not true. Revenue is always increasing because we have an economy that's built to have 2 to 3% inflation every year. So just by the nature of things staying the same, like if you change absolutely nothing, let's say we never changed a policy for 10 years, revenue likely is going to keep going up every year unless we have a massive recession. But revenue will keep going up because our economy is meant to expand by 2 to 3% every single year. So if you aren't increasing revenue by more than 2%, you have failed. You're actually decreasing revenue because your expenses are also going up at 2 to 3%. So our expenses are accelerating faster than our revenues. So you have to do both, Mike. But I'm just asking you for the year when we cut taxes and it fucked things up in this country. Because we used to not have very much debt. And then Ronald Reagan came around and introduced trickle-down economics. Let's look at the debt. Let's look at the debt calendar, or the debt by year. You can just look at the year when everything changed. I need to go way back. All right. So make sure this is the right one. Federal debt. Yeah. Look at our debt here, Mike. Is Mike still here? Do you see our debt kind of like just mostly flatlining? It started increasing a little bit here. And then what happened right here, Mike? Right when you see this sharp uptick. A bunch of rich people convinced Ronald Reagan, hey, what if instead of the high taxes that we've been paying here, where the top marginal tax rate was somewhere between 70% and 90%, so the richest among us were paying 70 to 90%. Their effective rate was closer to 50%. And we were staying pretty even. And then right here, a bunch of rich people said, what if we kept more of the money and paid less percentage in taxes? And Ronald Reagan's like, yeah. And this is where modern day republicanism was born. And ever since then, because trickle-down economics is really popular to Americans because we're dumb, we're not very well educated, and we think only of ourselves because we're extremely selfish. We look at, oh, I get to keep more of my money every month. I would never change that. So now that we started trickle-down economics, it's impossible to undo it. So now you see this debt just explode because we can't afford to pay for our bills, Mike. That's why. So again, show me the year. Everything up to here, the top rate was somewhere between 70 and 90%, Mike. And it looks like we didn't have a debt problem, Mike. And then we decreased taxes. Boom! Runaway train, Mike. Runaway train, Mike. Yeah, Mike, you know what this is, I'm glad you said that. Mike said, you're not very well educated because look up the amount of taxes the rest of the world pays. We pay more on a dollar than any other country, and you want to raise it more. No, first of all, no, we don't, Mike. But second of all, those countries aren't fucking morons and spend almost all of their money on military. They also have universal health care. Which country, let's see, which country pays the most? Which countries pay the highest percentage? Is Asta Sophia here? Asta Sophia, how much do you pay in taxes, percentage-wise? We have people from Iceland here. There was somebody else that's here from Iceland. All right. Highest tax countries in 2025. All right, Mike. Here's Mr. Again, I'm uneducated. I haven't pulled this. I haven't looked at it yet. I'm uneducated. Okay. Oh, fuck. We're nowhere near the top. Where are we? Jesus Christ, Mike. Not even close, dude. Not even close, Mike. Finland, Japan, Denmark, Austria, Sweden, Aruba, Belgium, Israel, Slovenia, Netherlands, Portugal, Norway, Spain, Iceland, China, Germany, UK, France, South Africa, South Korea, Australia, Greece, Italy, Senegal, Papua New Guinea, Luxembourg, Zimbabwe, Congo, Turkey, Uganda, Taiwan, Chile, Guinea, Congo. Oh, Republic of Congo. Oh, that was Democratic Republic of Congo. I always forget how to say it. Mauritania, is that how you say that? Ireland, India, Colombia, New Zealand, Cameroon, Morocco, Suriname. Oh, there we are. 0 for 2, Mike. Oh, now you're on to dentist lists. All right, let's talk about countries with high. Jesus, can I type? Highest wait times. Let's see that, Mike. How many more times do you want to be wrong? Let's look at healthcare wait times by country, Mike. Oh, boom, number 2. Canada 1, US 2, Mike. Don't talk about education, Mike, when you're out here going 0 for a fucking lifetime, man. That's 0 for 3, actually, on Mike. 0 for a lifetime, Mike. You're probably only looking up one thing. We get hit in our taxes like 4 different times. Or, yeah, Mike's now that Mike's wrong, he's like, well, probably it's something else. I don't know how to explain what you're doing wrong. I just know that somebody once told me that. And now that you're showing the information, I'm wrong. And then I'll move the goalpost. Keep talking, Mike. Let's see how many things Mike can get wrong today. How come we're number 2, Mike? What happened there? Another one, Mike? The one thing you'll know, Mike, and I hope you come back to this channel, I don't talk about everything, but I don't talk about things I don't know. If we're talking about it, I've researched it. That was 0 for 3, Mike. That was a bad look for you, but stick around. You might learn something.
Session if the Fed does not continue to drop rates.
Oh, yeah, that's the good one. Let's show Mike one more thing. Sorry, let's show wealth inequality by year. Oh, inequality by year. Mike, want to see what else happens when you cut taxes? Pull this up. While you're out here, where's the damn chart? While you're out here bootlicking for the rich, just know that none of this helps you. Here's income gains at the top from 1980. So this is 1980 right here. 1, 2. So right here is trickle-down economics. Right here, 1982, is where we start trickle-down economics, Mike. This red line is the percentage change in income since 1982. The top 1% has seen their income go up by 326%. Far outpacing these folks down here. You look at the bottom 20%, 132%. The next 20% is 116. And then you see the middle class, which, remember, Mike, your folks say that trickle-down economics is for the middle class. Nobody has been fucked harder than the middle class by trickle-down economics. Look at this, Mike. I'm just telling you, like, we are indoctrinated to think that trickle-down economics and capitalism are great. Nobody else in the world does it our way, except for places like Russia. They kind of do, where you have like these oligarchs. And the UAE now, they do it kind of the same way. Yeah, Mike might have left. Did you have it? Did you call it a day there, Mike, or are we still here? Did we take off, bud? Good call on that one, though, Nathan. All right, let's get back to Scott Bessent. That was a tough run at things for you, Mike.
I think that we are in good shape, but I think that there are sectors of the economy that are in recession, and the Fed has caused a lot of distributional problems with their policies. I wrote a 7,000-word essay on that. We've seen the biggest hindrance for housing here that are mortgage rates. So, if the Fed brings down mortgage rates, then they can end this housing recession. Low-end consumers.
Let's talk about that. The Fed doesn't control mortgage rates. They do indirectly. This is another lie. The reason, the main reason that people can't buy houses is because they can't afford them. Yes, some of that has to do with the rate, but a lot more of it has to do with the fact that housing prices have skyrocketed. That's one of the, what did you say, Mike? You're wrong. I looked it up myself, and you're not looking at it right. We are the top 5. We pay 26 cents on a dollar. What's your source, Mike? Let's pull up your source. What Scott Bessent is saying here right now is just like, he's trying to pretend that this is about the middle class, because they always do that. But the Fed controls the rate that banks lend to each other. So what they need, the reason that all of these companies are talking about lowering the rate from the Fed is because they need access to capital. Now, he's slick, so he's going to pretend that this is about mortgages. But think about that. What are mortgage rates right now? Like, let's just say that mortgage rates are 6.5%. If the Fed cuts it by 0.25%, is that gonna significantly change what you pay? No, it's not going to be significant. What could significantly drop the price of a mortgage? The price of the house, right? Yeah, a decent home, depending on where you are. Like where I'm at, $500K barely gets you anything. Mike, did you cite that source? Mike, you're going to need to cite a source. Nobody believes you, so you're going to need to just type the name of your source, and we're going to look it up. Mike, you keep saying the same shit over and over. I need a source, bud.
Who have gotten killed under President Biden, these high rates are hurting them because they have debt, not assets. Mm-hmm. So I think that there are sections of the economy that could go into recession.
Mike, Google is not a source, bud. You got to tell me Mike, search on Google. Oh, are you reading the AI? All right, Mike, write out word for word what your search said. I'll help you find this. Maybe you don't know how to check things on Google. You're reading an AI overview, it sounds like. Asa Sophia said, I paid 39 to 40% taxes. She's in Iceland. I also pay other taxes and sales taxes, 24.5%. 6 weeks paid vacation and 12 months paternity leave or parental leave. We have some issues, yes, but I will rather pay high taxes to get medical help if I need. Thank you very much for that. Johnny, getting discharged today. Sorry I missed that, Johnny. I was in the middle of yelling at Mike. Johnny in the chat, getting discharged today. Johnny's just out here beating cancer's ass. I hope you're feeling good, bud. And Burned Out Medic said Trump will die. I think he's the greatest president ever. All right, Mike, did you come up with did you tell me what you wrote? Google. Oh my God, Mike. Mike, write what you wrote in Google. You fucking douche. Jesus Christ. Mike, whatever you typed in Google, that should be your next comment. Just type what you wrote in Google so that we can search it and see it. Good Lord. Good Lord, Mike. You're better. You can be better than that. Yeah. All right. Here it is. This is probably the best TikTok I've ever seen to explain the state of our economy right now. This is Sarah Bed IMD. This is really illustrative. I like this. This is one that you guys are going to want to get in the Discord. Watch it a few times. Send it to your friends. But this explains like the illusion we have here in America that we are more prosperous.
This is one of my favorite images to explain the illusion of prosperity in the United States. The average tells us how much wealth exists, and the median tells us who actually has it. 10 people go to dinner, the bill is $1,000. One person orders $991 worth of food, and the other 9 people order $1. The average spending is $100 per person. Median spending, $1. The average makes it sound like everyone's feasted. The median shows that people barely ate. America's average wealth is sky high because billionaires distort that math. This makes the United States appear richer on paper, but this is a statistical illusion because the median, the middle person, hasn't moved much in decades. The median American family has less savings, less home ownership, and more debt when you compare this to prior generations. Whatever growth we have seen in the past few decades has not been shared. America's wealth story is not one of abundance shared, but of abundance.
You see here, just like it says top 20 here, you see average versus median wealth. So just in case you can't see it and you're in vertical, U.S. is number 4 behind Hong Kong, Luxembourg, and Switzerland on average wealth. But when you take the median wealth, which is how average people are doing, we're down at 14 at 112,000. That's a massive difference from 112,000 to 565,000. Vice versa, like look at Luxembourg here. Theirs makes more sense. Luxembourg, their average wealth is 608,000, but the average person in Luxembourg is getting $372,000. You can see a difference here in Switzerland from 710 to 117. Like you'll see this, and this is where you want to look. Hong Kong, average wealth 582,000, median 207,000. You want to see like if we were even close to like double, but it's not. It's 5x. The richest among us have so much more money that their wealth takes the median income from 112,000 and then makes it on average $565,000. It's a great graphic, right?
Hoarded. The average celebrates billionaires while the median reveals reality.
All right. Mike said, how much taxes do you pay on a dollar? I don't know how that would give you. How would this give you a chart? You pay on a dollar. Let's see what his AI overview here is saying. The amount of tax you pay on a dollar depends on many factors, including the type of tax income, federal income tax. This isn't showing me what you said. Mike, I have no idea what you're saying, but that didn't give you the answer you just told us. Everybody's here, right? Everybody's here. Mike told us that's what he searched and that it said that we were number 5. Where does it say that here, Mike? I don't see it, bud. I don't think that's what you searched. It kind of seems like you're lying a little bit, Mike. I don't know if people are believing you right now. All right, moving on. Here's what's going to happen, though. The economy is going to crash, and it's going to crash sometime probably next year, and they're going to blame it on people like Mamdani and the left, because that's what the capitalists always do. They're already preparing it. This is George Will, and he was on with our guy Bill Maher. And you can see they're setting the stage already to blame all of our problems when we have a recession on the left.
This must be horrible for a guy like you, who you spent your whole life talking about how government tries to do too much, which it does, and spends too much. And here you have Trump, who is the Republican, who is aggrandizing more power than anybody, as we just talked about. And on the other side, you have the guy running in New York, Mamdani, right? Okay, who's like
it's far past time you'd be able to say his name there, Bill Maher.
a straight up communist. I mean,
he's a democratic socialist. This is anybody who calls Mamdani a straight up communist. Just know that person certainly doesn't know what communism is, what socialism is, and what democratic socialism is. If you're a democratic socialist by nature, you believe in government. If you are a communist, you don't believe in government. You'd say that there shouldn't be a government at all. So it's not even like full-on socialism. It's a democratic socialism, which allows for capitalism because it's allowed to be voted on, right? It's crazy how little Bill Maher understands for a guy who has one of the most important political talk shows on earth.
He talks about, the things that communists say. I mean, he wants free grocery stores, free buses.
I want him to win.
Nobody wants free grocery stores. They don't understand that either. It's government-run grocery stores. You will still, if you go into a government-run grocery store, it will be no different than going into any other grocery store, except when you buy your groceries, no money is going to go to some executive. Like there's no flow up where there's somebody that's making hundreds of millions of dollars for selling you groceries. It's not, none of them. Like, how does Bill Maher not taking the time to understand any of this?
Communists say. I mean, he wants free grocery stores, free buses.
I want him to win.
You want him to win?
Yeah. I think every 20 years or so.
Wait.
We need every 20 years or so, we need a conspicuous, confined experiment with socialism so we can crack it up again. Socialist slogan used to be, workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose but your chains. The new socialist slogan is, trust us, this time it won't be a mess.
That's a crazy thing to say from a capitalist. That's a fucking crazy thing. Capitalism is so good that every 8 years every 10 years we have a recession. We have to reset the fucking thing. That's like you guys, this is like me saying my internet is great. My internet's just as good as capitalism. It's so good that in order for it to keep working, you have to have massive resets like every 10 years. Now, I'm not a socialist, and you guys know that, and I'm not a capitalist, and I think you guys know that. Like, I think that we're in a massive country, and I don't like ideologies. I think that all of these are economic theories, and I think that they're all flawed in their own ways. But what I see with Mamdani is I see Mamdani finding holes where the free market isn't working. So if you live in an area where you don't have a grocery store because nobody will have a grocery store there because they can't make enough money, right? It's not profitable enough. They don't want to go in and break even. You're going to have food deserts. So Mamdani's finding places in New York where people want access to groceries, don't want to have to travel so far, which is expensive. And if you've lived in New York, it's time consuming. If most people don't have cars, you got to ride on public transit. It's a arduous process to go and get groceries. So why not, if people don't have access quickly to go and get groceries, why not have a store that's run by the government that isn't for profit? That's fine. You live in a very size-wise a small city with it's also the most populated. You don't want a lot of cars there. So what do you want to do? You want to increase public transit. But what about people who can't afford public transit? Well, maybe just make it simple and easy and free for certain people. No problem. Capitalism's not going to step in there. I've not seen at all. If Mom Donnie was a socialist, Mom Donnie would be talking about like changing, and he is a democratic socialist for the record. But if he was advocating for full socialism, wouldn't we be talking about like more worker rights? Wouldn't we be talking about profit sharing? Wouldn't we be talking about breaking down these monopolies? There's a whole lot of other stuff we'd be talking about. No, he's using he's using socialism to fix parts where capitalism isn't working, and that's what socialism was from the start. That's what Karl Marx said. This is my critique of capitalism. Is Mike still here? Jesus Christ. Mike, take a lap, bud. You're just spiraling. This is tough for you. Guys, it's all the prices are going up because people are stealing too much and then they move out of bad neighborhoods. Mike, did you know that petty crime like theft goes up when wealth inequality goes up? Did you know that, Mike? Every dollar or every percentage we go over 30% that people are paying to live, like so if you take 30% of your income, any percentage above that you have to pay for your house, whether it's a mortgage or rent. If you're paying over 30%, every percent above 30, we see homelessness rise and we see crime rise. Because when people don't have money, they steal. So fix the underlying condition. But Mike is such a cuck to capitalism and such a cuck to this system and such a cuck to Republicans that Mike sees a broken system and goes, we should probably just throw people in prison. We should probably take poor people and throw them in prison. Let's not address the issue. Like, if you have money to buy groceries, like very few people are just like kleptomaniacs. Most people don't steal if they have money. But then when they don't have money and they want to eat, what do you want them to do? Mike's like, you should just die. That's what you should do. Just die. There's Amazon. It scared the shit out of me. I saw out my window the Amazon guy. All right, we'll keep going.
So, when the post-war Labour government in Britain was about to get started, one of their leading lights was a socialist named Nurian Bevan. He said, what could go wrong? He said, we have a nation bedded on coal, surrounded by fish. It would take an organizational genius to have a shortage of either. In 3 years, they had a shortage of both. That's socialism.
No, it's not. Mike, by the way, we have like 4% unemployment. We've been hovering around like record lows in unemployment for the last like 10 years. Our unemployment. So what that means, Mike, is that a lot of people are working and they don't make enough to make ends meet. You got to start looking some stuff up, Mike, instead of just trying to demonize poor people. It does you no good. You're just a cuck for these rich people who are lying to you. And you've been lied to, and it's been, I get it, Mike. It's been an embarrassing day today. You're trying to land one point before you get out of here. I would start listening a little bit more. That's what I would do if I were you. I would just listen a little bit more. Grew up so poor I didn't have Christmas, birthday, nothing. Yeah, but guess what? I bet there were a lot of people that did. Did your parents work? They did? They couldn't afford Christmas presents? Maybe that's a bad fucking system that people can work full-time and not afford Christmas presents. I'm like, no, it's not bad. It's actually good. We should definitely give these rich people more money and more power and be thankful for the breadcrumbs that they give us. That's the whole point of this background today. Like, is Mike not this guy? This is you, Mike. Just change here. Please, just send some down here. Just send some down, would you? These guys are all the bad guys down here. Look at them begging for handouts. It's real easy, Mike, to not understand any of this and blame poor people, but like it's also pathetic. It's also gross. It's also honestly what's wrong with this country. Can you think, Mike, of any movie you've ever seen where the good guys were the ones that were blaming poor people for all of their problems? You think of a movie like that, Mike? Can you think of a time? Let's just point to a time in history. I think back to like the 1920s, and I think of when wealth inequality was at previous all-time highs before we got to where we're at now. And there were all these people that didn't have funds to live, and people were stealing food. people were working. This Monday, this is a good reminder for everybody. We are crowdfunded. This Monday, we're going to be watching Newsies. And Newsies is a story from the 1920s during the Great Depression when people, one, had no benefits. So if you're working a factory job and you get hurt, they just let you go and you're done. There's no safety net. And if they fire you and there's not another job available, you're just done. There weren't enough jobs. But the rich were the richest they had ever been. And so you started seeing children working. You started seeing a lot of kids going in and working in factories. They'd get hurt too. And Newsies is the story of these kids who are out and they sell newspapers. And the robber barons, the richest people, the newspaper owners, William Randolph Hearst and William Pulitzer, they decided what they would do is they would take a small fraction because they weren't making quite as much money. They'd take a small fraction of the money that the Newsies were making, these kids that were standing on news corners, handing out papers. And they said, we're gonna cut there. That's where we'll cut. And the Newsies were like, fuck you, we're going on strike. You can look at our country. Like, Elon Musk is the richest man in the world, I think. Jeff Bezos is right there. What do we know about Jeff Bezos? That a significant portion, amount of people that work for Jeff Bezos don't make a living wage. Same with the people that work at Walmart. There's no living wage there. They don't have good health insurance. And if they do have health insurance, they can't afford to use it because they don't have any money. We're in the exact same place. And the people like Mike are the people that were getting stomped on in the Newsies in the 1920s, before and after the Great Depression, who were like, we should just listen to the rich people. Those rich people just worked so hard, and that's why they have all the money, and we should listen to them. Everybody without money is just lazy. We're at record low unemployment, Mike. Please, for the love of God, learn something today. Don't, drop your fucking ego. I used to be a dumb dick Republican too. I used to repeat all this shit, except for I got paid to do it. The Republican Party paid me to do it because I was like a decent messenger. So I used to get paid to lie for the rich people, for you. The rich people pay the Republican politicians. Then the Republican politicians say what the rich people want as a puppet, and then it trickles down to you, and you heard Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck, and then it turned out to be Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro, and all these rich puppet masters who also fund them are telling them that the real problem is poor people. But in all of human history, it's never the poor people. Did you watch Robin Hood, Mike? You ever watch Robin Hood? I don't think the lesson of Robin Hood was that Robin Hood was a dickhead for stealing from the rich people. I don't think that was the lesson. I think the lesson was that the rich folks weren't sharing any of that wealth and people were starving and living out in the forest. And so the only thing that they could do was steal. But don't learn those lessons. You're just a child. Mike, if you've made it to 50 years old and you've seen all this, you're dumb then. First of all, Mike, you're not that much older than me. I might look young, but I turned 40 this month. So I'm not that young, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if somebody's 12 or 60. Your life experience is 60 years. And by the way, the education system that you went to, the culture that you're in, it has been created. You have been taught your whole life, one, not to know what socialism is, not to know what communism is, just to know that they're evil. That is our education system. The richest people in this country have been paying off politicians for a century to make sure that American citizens don't know what socialism is, don't know what communism is. They just lie to you all the time and say, oh, it means everybody gets the same amount of money, which is bullshit. And they tell you that capitalism somehow is an American idea and that it's tied to who America is. It's not. It's not in the Constitution. They didn't lay out economic theory. You've been lied to for a long time. Mike, the older you are, the more likely you are to have been indoctrinated. Because unlike this younger generation who all sees through capitalism, you didn't have the internet. You couldn't go on and fact check your teachers. You couldn't go on and fact check Walter Cronkite. You had no ability to do that. You lived most of your life, Mike, like I lived a good portion of my life, believing the people who taught you things and believing that the things that you were taught were true. They're not. We've had an all-out war on socialism paid for by the richest people in this country. Then they introduced trickle-down economics, which we showed you. You see our expanding debt. You know why trickle-down economics still exists, Mike? Because we don't require a balanced budget. They tried trickle-down economics, the supply-side economics, the Laffer curve. They tried this in one state. And within like 3 years, Kansas, the state they tried it in, was bankrupt. And they ran out Art Laffer. And Art Laffer, nobody heard a word from Art Laffer for like 20 years. And now Art Laffer's making a comeback. Because the rich people are trotting him back out there going, no, guys, this really works. This Laffer curve thing, this trickle-down economics, it really works. I know that 50 years of data says that wealth inequality is at all-time highs. We have more debt now than we've ever had before, but it's going to work. It's those pesky liberals. It's socialism that has ruined all of this. You're just indoctrinated, Mike. And if you had a little bit of humility, you would listen to what we're saying instead of like doubling down and tripling down and quadrupling down. Have a little humility. I had to do it. It sucked, dude. I got my ass kicked in debates for like years before I was like, I'm just going to stop being wrong. Switch said trickle-down economics fucks the middle class. No kiss, no dinner, no lube. Mike may enjoy that, but we do not. Also, go Bills. Fuck DJT said retail theft crisis is a lie told by corporations to get the government to pay for their security by more funding for police as an excuse to raise prices. Facts, dude. I think it's either CBS or Walgreens. They got caught with this lie when they were locking stuff up and they were saying that they were moving stores and they had to increase prices because of retail theft. And then in their own internal documents, it showed that like retail theft wasn't actually up. Way to go, Johnny, from Tanya there. Oh, Mike Westiller, thanks for all those. All right, moving on. How much time do we got? 12:30. We got about. I do have a hard cutoff today at 1. I gotta go pick up my daughter. So if we can knock out the remaining balance of that gift goal in the next 30 minutes, that'd be great. I'll try and fly through what we've got left. I'm going to skip the unemployment. Unemployment has risen to 4.3%, which is high, which is up under Donald Trump, but it's still pretty low. And I think that the employment number just tells us that while record numbers of Americans are employed, they can't afford to pay their bills, which isn't good. Like, who cares if everybody has a job if you can't afford to pay your bills? Listen, I'm sorry in advance. I'm deeply sorry for this in advance. Trigger warning, barf bag warning. I didn't want to do this, but I have to.
Prices have not come down at all.
The job market is weakening.
Job market is still extremely difficult. Wages have not gone up. Health insurance premiums are going to go up. Car insurance goes up every year. People's homeowners insurance goes up. Rent is going up. Young people have no hope of buying a home. And then when they try to buy a home, they end up, like I said, competing with like Blackstone or somebody else.
The average home buyer now is 38 years old. It just came out.
Right.
The average home buyer, 38.
On the flip side, baby boomers can't sell their homes.
Right.
They pay massive capital gains taxes. They don't know
No. They can't sell their homes because they have nowhere to go. Close, Marjorie Taylor Greens, but like capital gains is not why they can't sell their homes. You can still sell your home. If you had a home for like 40 years and you're going to pay capital gains, I know I talked to a guy recently that bought his home for $33,000 here in Arizona, and he just sold it for $1.2 million. So yeah, you can sell it, and he might have paid 15% capital gains on that. You can still sell it. It's because there's nowhere else for them to go once they sell it. So everything's too expensive. And if you don't have an updated home, if you've had a home that you've had for 60 years and it requires some work, then you got to buy, if you're going to buy a new home, it's going to be more expensive than what you just sold. And if you're going to buy a fixer-upper, you don't have any money, right? So it's just, that's why. Nobody can buy, like that buying and selling is a bad move right now.
well, what do I move to? How do I downsize? I can't replace what I have.
Right.
So there are problems on both ends. Some of my own personal family members, some of my own personal friends, they're getting by month to month, charging up their credit cards. Prices have.
We'll talk about that, the debt, I think tomorrow. Renee, thank you for Super Chat. Oh, Jen said, Mike is an embarrassment to Gen Z. Come on, Mike. Be friends with your fellow Gen Zers. They just want to be your friend, man. They just want you to say smart things. Fuck DJT said, wage theft is the largest component for all theft. By miles. By absolute miles, wage theft. I remember working. I remember getting a bunch of overtime at this job I had. I was running a call center, and I was getting insane amounts of overtime because we had a pretty bad management team. But my team was doing well, so I just stayed. I would stay like 10 or 11 hours a day. And then they pulled me in, and the solution to fixing all of this overtime was to stop paying me overtime and put me on salary instead. That happens all the time. If you have somebody that you need to work more than 40 hours a week, just pay them a salary. Then you don't have to pay time and a half. Michelle said, thank you very much for that donation. Get to this next video. Here's the credit card debt that we were talking about, or that Marjorie just brought up. So this is tough to look at. This is the average quarterly spending per card. So this is by credit score. You can see people 720 and up, even people with good credit, they're spending more and more and more on their credit cards. It's a little more stifled with 660 to 719, and obviously flat under 660. There's no money here. These people's credit cards are largely maxed out. So we have a credit card crisis in this country too. People, I mean, just statistically speaking, there's what 570-ish people watching right now. Statistically speaking, 60% of you guys have credit card debt right now. I would venture that the majority of the people watching right now are carrying some sort of credit card debt every month, and those APRs are crazy. It's like 28%. So you're paying interest on your own debt. Now, part of that, I would say, is people not being careful with their spending. Part of that is people overspending. But the other part is like just some people are good with their spending. There's just nothing they can do. They just hope that this crisis will end. Maybe they'll get paid more. Maybe prices will come down. But until then, what are you going to do? Go without food? No. $50 I'm down to. And let's look here. Here's I don't actually want to look at this consumption. I don't know if I agree with this consumption number, but you can see it. I don't think it's as high as this. I was looking at the methodologies. This is from Moody's. I'm not sure this methodology is right. I need to dig more into it. I think that the percentage might be lower, but you'll see here, this is the blue down here at the bottom is the top 10% of earners. Then the top 10%, and then 60 to 80. You can see here, this is spending. So it looks like, I don't know if it's 50%, but it is higher. We are at record rates where the top 10% of earners are spending about, they make up basically 50% of our spending. I think it's probably closer to 40. But 10% of the people make up 40% of our spending now. That's wealth inequality. That's income inequality. That's the difference between people with disposable income and no disposable income. All of these are horrific economic indicators that we do not want to see. Here's a headline. I'd say this headline coming out of Bloomberg, I think this perfectly encapsulates where we're at right now and what's wrong with our economy. UPS stuns Wall Street with strong profit and $34,000 job cuts, or 34,000 job cuts. That's a problem. Wall Street expected UPS stock price to be down because they thought their earnings were going to be down. No worries, says UPS. We'll just cut 34,000 jobs, and then that'll be off of our books, and we'll look more profitable. Hooray! Our stock price went up. That's what our economy's tied to now. You saw Donald Trump when he was asked earlier in that interview, like about people who are struggling in the economy, and he points to the stock market. That's all Republicans can point to right now is the stock market. But the stock market's artificially propped up. Like this isn't a healthy company. I mean, it certainly might be more profitable, but this is what they all do. And we talk about this all the time. This is why I think the stock market is ridiculous. I think it should be heavily regulated. But you look at the companies that lead, NVIDIA is the most profitable, the highest earning stock or highest priced stock in the country. Go look at their revenues. It doesn't match up. None of this stuff makes any sense. And I keep saying this, but like when you hear somebody talk about somebody who analyzes the stock market and somebody who's brilliant, somebody like Warren Buffett, and they say, oh, this guy knows how to read markets. If you know how to read markets, you can do well. That's because it's rigged. You shouldn't have to read markets. It shouldn't be this fucking complicated. If your company is making money, the stock should be worth more. And if your company is losing money, the stock should be worth less. But we have this consistent scenario where companies lose money and their stock goes up, like Tesla. How is Tesla stock still going up? They lost their government subsidies. They're selling less cars. And their stock price still goes up. So when you point to that as a Republican and say, look, our economy is great, all-time high stock markets, it's gambling. That's not good. That's exactly right, Velazar. Completely rigged. The stock market is entirely, if you have enough money, you can rig the stock market yourself. The pretty bad system we've got here. And our guy, Michael Burry from The Big Short, he's back. And he was right about 08, and he was one of the few people who was right about 08. Now, the difference between 08 and now is virtually every economist is saying, uh-oh. They're not really even going along with it now, but it doesn't matter, especially with this administration. They're just going to keep going. This is from the Coastal Journal Substack. Highly recommend it. It's titled Michael Burry's Warning, Stock Market Bubble No One Wants to See. Michael Burry's latest warning, sometimes we see bubbles, has ignited a global debate. This in-depth financial white paper explores whether the 2025 stock market bubble is already bursting as Fed repo data, MBS sell-offs, and valuation metrics reach historic extremes. So this is Michael Burry here. There's the quote. Sometimes we see bubbles. Sometimes there's something to do about it. Sometimes the only winning move is to not play. Now, this is a crypto person who does this, but their economic analysis is good. Their solution is buy crypto, which is just to say, like, the game is rigged. We can't unrig the game. So get into this other rigged game of crypto to protect yourself. Or if you're like us, we could just advocate that we change it and we don't have a rigged system anymore. But on Google Trends, it says, the stock market bubble surged to its highest level in a year, climbing over 90% in the last 30 days as investors scrambled to decode his message. Going to skip that. Here we go. The Buffett indicator. Total U.S. market cap to GDP now stands at 217%, the highest level ever recorded. That's 69% above the long-term trend line and nearly 2 standard deviations above the historical average. In plain terms, this means that U.S. stocks are valued at more than 2 times the size of the economy itself. I mentioned, I think NVIDIA stock is 13% of our GDP. Like, that's a problem because that's fake money. That's funny money. The long-term average is around 120%. With anything above 160% historically marking bubble territory. So we're past that. We're at nearly 200%. When valuations stretch this far, twofold deviations beyond the mean, they don't stay there. Every prior reading near this level in 2000, 2008, and 2021 was followed by sharp mean reversion, a crash. At 217%, the market isn't just expensive, it's statistically euphoric. If that sounds abstract, here's the translation. The combined market cap of Apple, Microsoft, and NVIDIA exceeds $13 trillion. That's larger than the GDP of Japan and all of Europe combined. Apple, Microsoft, and NVIDIA market cap alone equals the entire GDP of California, the 5th largest economy in the world. 3 companies. And yet, Apple's total annual revenue is $195 billion. At a $4 trillion valuation, investors are paying 22x on earnings. Do you know how fucking crazy that is? You would never invest in a company that says, here's our earnings. Do any of you guys watch Shark Tank? If we can break this down simply, in Shark Tank, they always ask, like, what's your revenue? How much have you made? So let's say that somebody says, my revenue is $100,000 this year. And so I'm going to value my company at 2x. I've sold an insurance brokerage. And when we were looking at selling our insurance brokerage, you were looking at anywhere from 1.5 to 3x your revenue. And that's what we would get to pay, or that's what we would sell it for. Now, certain companies are worth more than others because like a place like Apple or Microsoft, even NVIDIA, those customers are going to keep coming back. So you might say, take their revenues, and you might say 3x, 4x, maybe 5x is what you're willing to pay. But people are paying 22x, which means that artificially drives up the stock market, which means it costs you more to invest in that company than it's really worth. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? I think we're explaining that. Larry said expect a 50% haircut. Yeah. And yet Apple's total revenue, $195 billion. There's the 22x. And they're only growing 3% a year. Not 3x a year, 3% a year. That stock makes no fucking sense. NVIDIA, the darling of the AI boom, earns $100 billion annually in revenue and is valued at $5 trillion, a price-to-earnings ratio of 60. 60x. What you're essentially saying by buying a share of stock in NVIDIA is that you're projecting 60 years of these price earnings. It's going to take 60 years for it to get to the valuation of what you're valuing it at. That means it would take half a century for its profits to equal its valuation. On October 2025, the S&P's median price to sales ratio stands at around 3.4, more than double its long-term median of 1.6. 1.6 would be fine, but our S&P currently price to sales ratio is more than double that. When we're talking about like an actual collapse, an actual recession, perhaps bigger than a recession, this is why. We've never gotten to this point, and we didn't have a massive, massive correction. You're not smart enough for this. Oh, guy in the chat. Yeah, well, listen, I get told that every day by you guys in the chat. Explain to me then real quick, since we do have a genius here in the chat, like explain to me why you would pay 60x revenue. Explain to me why, what was it? Was it Apple or NVIDIA that was at 60x? NVIDIA. Explain to me 60x revenue that you're paying for that share price. Explain why that makes financial sense. It doesn't, does it? Are you expecting a massive increase in profits in the next couple of years? You're just planning on holding that stock for 60 years? It's silly. And by the way, it's propped up by, I sound like Joe Biden there. And by the way, folks, it's propped up by government spending. The government's artificially propping these prices up. Did you know that? Nah, I'm too dumb to know that. Do you know that the government's injecting money right now? The government, let's see if I have it here. I might have saved it for tomorrow. Let me look real quick. Yeah, we don't have that much time. About 15 minutes. Tomorrow I'm going to get to it. Tomorrow I'm going to get to how the government is quietly propping up these companies behind closed doors. Banks don't have enough money to lend each other, so our government's just sliding a little money in on a Friday evening when nobody's going to notice. I'll cover that all tomorrow a little bit more in depth. But let's go here to this. Now, it is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a connection with these banks. We talked about it on Thursday. The connection to Epstein with these banks, and a lot of these banks, specifically JP Morgan Chase, seem to know exactly what Epstein was doing. They also couldn't explain how he had so much money. And this is from More Perfect Union, but this is their TikTok account. I want to show this video, and then this will probably be it, and we'll get out of here. Oh, let me read some comments real quick before we start it. FOD said, best topic 2026 will be rough. The end is near. Renee, thank you very much. Did I miss any here? Natalie said, latest Hopium Chronicles gave me hope. And also, it wasn't me, said, the brainwashing my dad for a movie night. That's on the list. That'll be coming. And let me check Jen's real quick. Elizabeth said, blacked out. Please don't say my name. Amazon hasn't given mid-senior level corporate employees a raise in 2 years. I can barely pay my bills, and I have 2 degrees. They continue to make billions every year, lay people off, and don't give base pay raises for performance or cost of living. Fuck Amazon. I happened to a family member of mine that got laid off from Levi Strauss. Kind of the same deal. Vanessa said, paying the sister wife dues. At what point can I call myself a sugar mama? Whenever you want. You can do that whenever you want. Right. Play this, and then we'll get out of here.
I have been doing a lot of reading about Jeffrey Epstein's wealth. I've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole. Let's just quickly go back to the beginning. As a young man, Epstein scammed his way into a teaching job at an elite private high school despite not having any qualifications and got fired. But one wealthy father of some students at the school liked Epstein and connected him with Alan Greenberg, who was the CEO of the investment bank Bear Stearns. Greenberg hired Epstein for an entry-level role, and Epstein really quickly rose to a position where he was responsible for helping the ultra-wealthy avoid taxes. I mean, I know that's what all these guys do, but that's what Epstein's specific job was. But in 1981, he ostensibly resigned from his position at Stearns after a scandal involving insider trading. But really, he was still managing money for them. The Paradise Papers, that's a major leak of documents from Appleby, a financial firm that also helps the ultra-wealthy hide their money in offshore accounts, revealed that Epstein ran a mysterious corporation, 40% owned by Bear Stearns, Liquid Funding Ltd., from 2001 to 2007. Liquid Funding was one of Appleby's clients, headquartered in the Bahamas to avoid US regulations and taxes. The offshore accounts are shady as fuck, but it's also just normal rich people stuff. It's what Liquid Funding dealt in specifically that's interesting to me. Subprime mortgage-backed securities. That's investments backed by home loan debts. That is the same kind of financial maneuvering that caused the 2008 financial crisis. Liquid Funding was among the first to use this dangerous strategy. And Epstein ran the fund on paper until 2007, which also lines up with his first legal issues for all the awful stuff we really know his name for. He first faces charges in 2006, and he hammers out this deal that ends in near immunity and just 18 months in prison, where he's allowed to leave for 12 hours a day to run his non-profit foundation. Meanwhile, the financial dealings of Liquid Funding and firms like it resulted in the whole, bank collapse thing. Bear Stearns is at the center of it all, and 2 execs are indicted for lying to investors, including one named Major Investor Number 1. But the government doesn't have enough evidence to fully get these 2 executives, so they make a deal with Major Investor Number 1, also known as
billionaire investor Jeffrey Epstein. Though he's just spent the last year in a Palm Beach, Florida prison for approaching teenage girls for sex, he's now a free man after 6 months were shaved off of his sentence. Why?
We'll continue to say it, Jeffrey Epstein wasn't a brilliant financier. He didn't make good trades. This one was he was late to the party. He was one of the last people, and he's like, yeah, we gotta get in on these mortgage-backed securities. While some of these banks were creating a short position, Jeffrey Epstein never saw the crash coming. So why all the protection for this guy? Why all the hype for him? He wasn't actually that good at this, and nobody could figure out where he got his money. And when he fucked up, nobody let him fail. He was always bailed out. They're going to explain it here, but we bailed out Jeffrey Epstein.
He's helping the government, reportedly here, build its case against former Bear Stearns hedge fund managers Ralph Cioffi and Matthew Tannen.
As Stearns collapsed further, the Federal Reserve stepped in to prevent total collapse of the economy and funded an acquisition of Stearns' assets by JP Morgan. That's the bank bailout you hear about. And as the deal was going through and before it was announced to the public, a ratings agency quietly announced that Epstein's firm, Liquid Funding, again 40% owned by Bear Stearns, had somehow wiped out all of their debt. It's inconclusive, but analysts at Wall Street on Parade provide excellent evidence.
He was heavily invested in these mortgage-backed securities. His debt should have been he should have been wiped out. And that's how he made his money. Where did this money come from? How in the world would Jeffrey Epstein make a terrible bet, lose, $6.7 billion, and then all of a sudden somebody paid his debt? I don't know the name of this guy. This is from More Perfect Union, so I forget his name, but this is More Perfect Union's TikTok account.
That was the federal
Israel's a good guess.
Bailing out Jeffrey Epstein's fund. But this is still only 2008. In the following years, Epstein, as a free man, would continue his financial maneuvering while running a network of super heinous crimes. Crimes that his old friends at the banks allegedly turned a blind eye to. Epstein's primary bank for years was JP Morgan, which had also...
Cam said, bro, this is embarrassing for you. Get that green screen back up. Oh, fuck you. That helmet there is signed by the greatest receiver of all time, and that's Colin Kaepernick, and we do not besmirch Colin Kaepernick, Cameron.
Loaned Liquid Funding $250 million and bought Bear Stearns during the crisis. JP Morgan has a specific division for extremely wealthy clients like Epstein. Banks have a legal responsibility to pay attention to suspicious, large, or cash transactions among their customers. Analysts did flag Epstein's transactions as problematic, but executives ignored analysts' advice and kept Epstein as a customer. From 2008 to 2013, JP Morgan facilitated millions of dollars in cash transactions for Epstein, quote, ignoring its own policy discouraging large cash withdrawals. One executive...
Now, these are those suspicious activity reports that the Ro Khanna and what's his fucking Thomas Massey have been talking about, how Congress just ignores them and they won't bring out these suspicious activity reports. It's clear that people knew that what Epstein was doing didn't make any sense, and then he was withdrawing cash when he really shouldn't have access to that much money. He shouldn't have that much money, but they just went largely ignored, and now this administration doesn't want us to see them for some reason.
Wrote, continue to do business with Epstein as an exception to the...
Guys, hold on real quick. I said the helmet was signed by the greatest receiver of all time, and that's Colin Kaepernick right there that we don't besmirch. I was talking about two people. That's obviously Jerry Rice and Colin Kaepernick. Thank you.
Felon policy, because his account was so valuable. And he was allegedly connecting JP Morgan with valuable clients like Bill Gates, Larry Summers, Sergey Brin, and even Benjamin Netanyahu. JP Morgan did eventually end their accounts with Epstein in 2013, but allegedly kept contact with him after that for connecting them with other rich people. Another bank quickly swooped in to profit off of Epstein's money. A relationship manager at Deutsche Bank, quote, suggested to senior management that Mr. Epstein was a potential client who could generate millions of dollars of revenue, as well as leads for other lucrative clients to the bank. Deutsche executives knew everything about Epstein. They had a whole memo about soliciting underage prostitution, but in that same email, point out that he could bring in estimated flows of $100 to $300 million with revenue of $2 to $4 million annually. They ignored what Epstein was doing with his money so that they could make more money off of his money. Obviously, Jeffrey Epstein is a sort of singular monster for his awful crimes, but he was supported and protected by the very same economic systems that keep you down. Offshore accounts, bailouts, and being protected by banks are all just normal rich people stuff. Jeffrey Epstein just took the exploitation to another level and got caught. But the rest of it is going on around you all the time.
It goes deep. I've said before, and we got a few more minutes. I'll talk for a few minutes, and then we'll get out of here. I had the gift goal wrong. I just misread what Jen said. One good way to knock that gift goal out is if we all just run a dollar train right now. Let's run a train on the dollar. We can knock that out. But looking at Epstein and the way that he's been protected and the way that they're hiding this, I think that every American that I know of on both sides, I think Epstein has exposed this, and it's incredibly frustrating as somebody who covers Donald Trump to watch all of this country understand at least somewhat what the problem is, and half the country refusing to tie Donald Trump to it. And it's not about Donald Trump's mistreatment of women and his potential mistreatment of children. Like, it's not just about that. It's about the protection racket. It's about the way that they're going about this and how dishonest they're being. And it's wild to me to watch some of you Republicans that come here every day feel like you're on his side. I'm honestly, honest to God, I'm baffled by the support that Donald Trump still has. He's obviously selling influence. Yeah, it's not half the country, half the voters. Thanks, Emily. He's obviously selling influence. He's obviously just bailing out his friends. He's obviously doing nothing for the middle class. It seems like to me that there must have been more people than I knew that just fucking hated immigrants. Because as far as I can see, like watching what's been going on, as far as I can see, that seems to be the only thing that you guys are getting that he campaigned on, is that he's going to do a mass deportation. And I've tried this before. I've tried debating this with conservatives. I ask this every day. What are you getting out of this? What's the material benefit or even like the social benefit that you're getting out of these mass deportations? We're incredibly divided. You have people screaming at ICE every single day. You have ICE agents pointing guns at American citizens. You have them arresting citizens. You have people being thrown in jail who've committed no crime. I'm just wondering is there a point where you're willing to admit, hey, we fucked this up? I think that the entire Republican platform is absolute bullshit. I don't think a goddamn one of them knows anything about economics, but I could at least understand you supporting that if you were getting a benefit from it, right? If wages were going up, if housing was more affordable, if there were like material benefits to you. They're venting. That's actually a good point. Like that might be it. Like this is just like a vent sesh. I don't know. Yeah, maybe racism. I think that what we've learned about racism here is that I think most Americans aren't overtly racism, but also for most Americans, racism isn't a deal breaker. It's actually fine. And I think that for MAGA Republicans, they'll lie to you about this. They'll lie in the chat. Or not even MAGA, but just Republicans in general. You live in a red state, you have racist friends. Your racist friends say racist things. And I get that because I have racist friends. I have Republican friends. And it's not just on the right or the left. Like, I've heard it too. But there's a difference between your friend saying it and the president saying it. And the difference is impact. If you have a friend who says that you're just sitting there watching football and your friend says something racist, it's there. It's in that room. It's confined to that room. There's probably no like material harm. You can't really point to the harm that does. But when it's the president, when it's members of Congress, when it's high profile content creators or radio hosts or TV hosts, that's the time. Like there should at least be some acknowledgement from some of you that you can put up with it from people in your life. You may be able to deal with it and recognize that it's not necessarily hurting people, but then when it gets expanded and real harm is being done, it turns out not to be a deal breaker for you. So then you lose the argument that it's just about jokes, right? Like I watch dark humor. I don't think if any of you like comedy at all, you're watching. You see things that like you would never say. At least not publicly. You wouldn't say them at your job. You wouldn't say a lot of it in front of your parents, and you laugh at it because that's the whole point, right? A comedy is supposed to be a little bit absurd. It's supposed to mock things. Comedy. The beautiful thing about comedy is it's supposed to kind of poke fun at everybody, but everybody realizes like that's part of the joke, right? Like my family has dark humor, so when something happens to somebody in our family, like that's how we deal with it. We kind of make fun of each other, and we all understand that we love each other, and that's just what we do. We're not very good at affection, so we do it that way. But if people like if the president was saying the shit about me that my family might say about me, it's a whole different scenario because now you're broadcasting that out, and it's being given from a platform where they're not. It's not a joke. It's not stand-up comedy. It's real life. It's real implications. So we have a president who daily, Stephen Miller daily, Caroline Leavitt daily, Tom Homan daily, Kristi Noem daily. They're going out there and they're advocating for racist things. And then their voters are like, you all just want to cancel us for everything. I don't want to cancel any of you. I don't want to cancel your comedians. That's a beautiful thing about comedy. Turn it off if it sucks. Turn it off if it's too far for you. I like Anthony Jeselnik. I think for a lot of people, Anthony Jeselnik probably goes way too far. I would never say any of the shit Anthony Jeselnik says on this stream. I would never play an Anthony Jeselnik clip on the stream. Why? Because I know that there's people who are sensitive to those issues that he's mocking, and I don't want to add to that. I watch him in my free time. There's no harm for me watching it, but I'm not going to promote it. What's crazy is like the lack of comedy now that's coming out of this administration. It's just hatred. And you guys are still pretending this is about speech, that it's about like people taking words too seriously. I just wonder what the fuck you guys are up to. Stavi, baby, that's a good example. Yeah. Stavi will say some fucked up things. Shane Gillis will say some fucked up things. Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, all these people. And I also share the criticism that for those people that have meandered into politics who are now mad that they're being canceled, shouldn't have come into politics then. Right? Like you're a comedian. You had this protection. But the reason that like you have that protection is because we could separate real life from comedy. And we were always supposed to, Joe Rogan says this all the time, like, I'm a comedian, I say shit, I don't always mean what I say, I don't want to be canceled for my comedy. That's cool. But then when you take that comedy, like, you can make a lot of jokes about, like, let's say cancer or whatever, like somebody dying from cancer. But if you go to their funeral and make that same joke, people are going to have something to say about that. Because nobody came for comedy. Nobody showed up at that funeral to have you, like, make fun of it. We don't hire our politicians to make us laugh. We hire our politicians to fix problems or not create new problems. So I'm just wondering for you Republicans, like, is there a line now for you? Or is everything comedy? Is everything a show? Is everything just a podcaster and nothing is to be taken seriously? That's where I think you guys have gotten. You've gotten to a point where you had a bunch of, and by the way, like most of your political commentators, they're all just failed comedians or actors. They wanted to be famous. They've always wanted to be famous. They wanted to put on a performance, and their comedy wasn't doing it. Their acting wasn't doing it, but this is doing it. That's all a fucking show for them. Benny Johnson, none of you know what Benny Johnson thinks. None of you. You have no fucking idea. Benny Johnson might not know what Benny Johnson thinks. Benny Johnson's a performer. Ben Shapiro wanted to be a screenwriter, so now what does he do? He writes narratives about politics. Steven Crowder wanted to be a stand-up comedian. He was dog shit at it. So what did he do? He moved over into political commentary, and then he's like, oh, you're canceling me for being funny. The unseriousness of the right is what's devastating. Everything about your whole fucking movement is so entirely unserious, anti-scientific, anti-mathematic. Everything about this whole movement is an absolute fucking joke. And I'm just wondering why you're on this train. Like, what's the point of this for you? I think maybe it's privilege. Maybe you think that, like, no matter what happens, it's just going to work out because this is the United States of America. But I got bad news for you, and I'll end it on this clip. The people that are in charge and the people who have got all the power and the people who have all the money, they planned for this. It was always their plan. And this is where we'll pick up a little bit tomorrow too. But I want to play this clip. This is again More Perfect Union. We played this clip when we did the American oligarchy. And if you're new to this channel, if you go back through my videos, I think it was a 2 or 3 part series we did called Unveiling the American Oligarchy. I don't know if anybody was earlier than we were on this. And shout out to our awesome research team who made it possible for us to even do that, because it was hours and hours of research. I don't know of anybody who was earlier than us on the oligarch class, but it's important to remember that Peter Thiel and all of these rich people who have been funding Donald Trump and are getting all these government contracts and who are creating things like Palantir, where they watch your every move and want to take over the country, they always had a plan for this. And this plan was always to undo democracy and seize power for themselves. Oh no, here we go. Thank you so much for the gifted subs. Let's end on this.
Chilling clips I've ever heard. And just hold on and trust me, because it's not that chilling until you realize what it means.
The basic idea was that we could never win an election on getting certain things because we were in such a small minority. But maybe you could actually unilaterally...
Real quick, one thing. Republicans, I've been shitting on you for the last couple minutes. I'm going to start this over. What I need you to understand real quick here is what I'm about to show you has nothing to do with right or left, Republican or Democrat, socialist, communist, free market capitalist, whatever it is. This attack is on you and me, despite the fact, Brian, despite the fact that you and I have completely different political opinions. They don't care about this. This isn't about ideology. It's not about right or left. What we're ending on here is for everybody. It does not matter what side of the aisle you're on. Yes, they've given a lot of money to Donald Trump. They would have given this money to anybody who was willing to accept the money and do what they wanted him to do. And that just happens to be Donald Trump. I don't think Donald Trump knows this. I don't think he understands it. I don't think anybody in their administration understands or knows any of this. And I think it's because they're arrogant. I think it's because they think they still have all the power. What all of us know is that the billionaires have way more power than anybody in Congress. Perhaps more power than the president. I would probably argue still the president, but it's getting close. So they know that. They don't care. These same people have been giving to the left forever. outside of Peter Thiel. The rest of them have been trying to fund the left forever, and they've been trying to get these government contracts. That's why Obama and Biden both gave Palantir contracts, because Palantir lobbied them too and gave them money too. So this isn't partisan. This is just a reality that these people that we're giving all this power to, they had a plan. And here's the quote that we'll end on. So please just understand, this isn't a shot at you. Let's not argue right now. This is about America. This is about fundamentally undoing democracy. If you like voting, if you like having an opinion, you should not like Peter Thiel and the American oligarchs.
That chilling until you realize what it means.
The basic idea was that we could never win an election on getting certain things because we were in such a small minority. But maybe you could actually unilaterally change the world without having to constantly convince people and beg people and plead with people who are never going to agree with you through a technological means. And this is where I think technology is this incredible alternative to politics.
That's tech billionaire and Republican megadonor Peter Thiel speaking at a Libertopia, a libertarian conference in 2010. He's basically saying that his political ideology is so unappealing that it'll never win elections. And that's one thing he's right about, because he's railed against women having the right to vote, complained so much about diversity, and written some really disgusting stuff about sexual assault and consent. But he knows that he can use technology as a unilateral alternative to politics, and that should really freak you out. Thiel is one of the co-founders and biggest investors in Palantir, a CIA-funded technology company that has contracts across the government for their data software. Here's their CFO speaking a few years ago.
We continue to advance our mission of becoming the US government's central operating system as we extend our footprint across defense, healthcare, and civilian agencies.
And while both President Obama and Biden did sign Palantir contracts, President Trump is taking it way further. There are new contracts with ICE, something literally called Immigration OS, and the IRS. So 15 years ago, Peter Thiel, like the supervillain in a movie explaining his plan to the hero, admitted that he can use technology to get his ideas across when they're unpopular, completely subverting democracy. And today, one of his technology companies is gaining more and more power within the government, building the very systems our government relies on. And oh yeah, this is the CEO.
The central risk to Palantir and America and the world is a regressive way of thinking that is corrupting and corroding our institutions, that calls itself progressive, but actually, and is called woke, but is actually a form of a thin pagan religion.
If you're a progressive, if you have progressive values, meaning you just, care about other people, the CEO of the company building America's technological back end thinks of you as the central risk. He thinks of you as the enemy. Are these the people you want running the systems you rely on, or worse, the systems that surveil you?
Those people need to go. You can talk politics all day long, but the power that these people have accumulated, we have to fundamentally undo. And speaking simply to the Republicans, we've got to be able to have this conversation without talking about political ideologies. Because this is a threat to the United States, more so than China, more so than India, more so than anybody you call our enemy, or Russia. Canada apparently is our enemy right now. This is a real attack, and it's an attack from the inside. And the reason that it's accelerating in this way is that before, it used to be that they kind of had to be sneaky. They got those contracts with Obama and Biden, but there was at least a level of people being upset. And you had the Republicans who actually opposed these contracts. You had people like Rand Paul, Mike Lee, obviously Thomas Massie, who said this is a massive breach of trust that both Obama and Biden granted to Palantir. And this is a massive invasion of our privacy. Republicans were opposed to this. And maybe it's just because it was Biden and Obama, and that's what they do. Same way that there's probably a ton of Democrats who were only opposed to this because it's Trump. I think that that's true. I think that most people in Congress are opposed to things not because they believe it, but because it's what they do. But this is one of those scenarios where all of us should be opposed to it because we've read their plan. And I highly recommend anybody who hasn't read it, just when we're done today, because I'm not going to cover it later in detail, but look up, what is that psycho's name? Curtis Yarvin, and look up Gray Cities. They have a plan for this. And what it is that the technocrats, these rich people, that they rule everything. And as long as you do what they say, you might have a decent life. And if you disagree with them or try and raise some opposition, they will use their own private army to silence you. It'll be a complete surveillance state. All the shit that you guys thought these tech companies were going to do with the vaccine, like putting a chip in you, they're literally doing it. You can look up these private cities. There's one, I forget the name of it, but it's in the Dominican Republic, where they're literally chipping people. They put chips in there. So look it up. But this is one of those times in history where we do need to set politics aside and focus on this stuff. Jen, did you have something? I'm going to read all these comments, but did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted you to make sure you got the demos.
Got it. I'm on it. All right. For the dollar chain, thank you, Kimmy. Lolly, Jumar said choo choo, motherfucking choo. Amber said thanks for the show as always. Wendy, thank you very much. Just a number said, how did the burger introduce its wife? Meat Patty. Thank you, Jesse. Angie said the 60 Minutes interview was so embarrassing. Alter Ego, thanks for the gifted subs. Allie, Lee, and Lolly, thank you guys. Burned Out Medic. Sam said, fellow Utah here, just as to say how grateful I am for your show. Thank you. Johnny, thank you again. Belinda, Cam, fuck you for the Rams. Christina said, keep doing you. Ed said, Ratatus the Silent Dono. I don't know what that means, but that might be your username. Kelly, thank you very much. Purdy Kiki said, for some dollars the others can't afford to send. Appreciate that. Linda said, thank you. Kyle, thank you. I think I read that one. I believe there was one more. Nancy said, always learn from you. Thank you. All right, guys, thanks so much. We'll be back tomorrow morning and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. to 1 Mountain Standard Time. We have to learn to say that differently. Also, with the new place, I'll be spending a little more time on TikTok, hopefully guesting on some other podcasts as well. We're going to make a real push for this. Thank you guys so much for sharing and subscribing. Just a reminder, members-only event next Monday. Make sure that you're a paid subscriber either on YouTube, Twitch, or TikTok, and you can join us for that members-only event. I also upgraded our Discord server so that we have more seats. I know we ran out of seats last time, and you want to get the membership done early. Sometimes the integration doesn't work, and it's hard to get people in who subscribe last minute, so make sure that you get it done early. As we try and get to 1,000 subscribers, which keeps us fully funded and able to continue to do this. But until tomorrow morning, take care of yourselves. I appreciate it. Thanks, Jen. Thanks for all the mods. You guys did incredible work. And hopefully tomorrow I'll remember to turn off the VPN so we don't crash again. Take care of yourselves, everybody. I need to get some outro music here real quick because I don't have my Stream Deck set up and I don't want you to go out in a weird way. So let's do this. I'll move it here. Boom. All right, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Stay cute and cool. Have a great summer.
Didn't wake up, dead or in jail. Some out-of-town boys been giving us hell. I got some bad news. I woke up missing you. My friends are all degenerates, but they're all I got. The generational story of dropping the plot. I heard the cops came. Cocky motherfuckers, ain't they? And ice is gonna come bust down your door. Try to build a house, no one builds no more. But I got a telephone. Kids are all scared and all alone. The bar stopped bumping, the rock stopped rolling. My middle finger's rising and it won't stop showing. Got some bad news, the fading of a red light.